How's the morning? Everybody enjoying it? I love this. Is a very nice, intimate environment where we can have some good discussions if we can. Let me set the stage here for a second, okay? First, let me introduce myself. This is Seraj Bharwani, as he introduced myself. Um, Illumin is a omni-channel performance advertising platform, and its relevance to NRF is the fact that we are spreading our wings into commerce media and closed loop measurement and all of that. So that's interesting. But that's about all we're going to say today about Illumin. We are here to actually talk to Sarah and learn a lot about her business, and we'll do that. But there is method to this whole madness in the 25 minutes or so that we actually do this stuff. I've done this for 15 years for BI. The audience is always giving me a lot of feedback. One of the first things they want to understand is about you. How people like you and the journey that you go through to become leaders where you are right now. Related to that is, how did their journey actually end up at DSW? But hold just one moment. We're going to do this discussion in 3 steps today. We're going to start with her. Then we're going to try to understand her business. What is this business about? And then finally, we'll try to understand what is her vision and where is she really trying to take this business, because she hasn't been there at DSW for that long. And so we are curious. We want to understand where you take this business and so forth and all of that. So you understand where I'm going? Why am I doing that? Well, we're doing it in these 3 stages so that when you ask questions in those last 5 minutes, you are really informed about the leader, the business, and the challenges that she faces, so that we can be very pointed about our discussions and make the most of those precious last 5 minutes that we have. You good so far? Excellent. All right. So, Sarah, let's start with you. We are really curious. We want to understand.
Perfect. Well, I was born no, I'm just kidding. I'm not. So first of all, I grew up in stores. My earliest career that I always mention started at 16, working in retail. And I didn't realize how fortunate that experience was for me, but it truly was. It allowed me to realize I have a organic connection to customers and brands and that unique relationship that can be formed from both of those. And I got to witness it firsthand by being a store associate, a key holder, a store manager, all while going to school for marketing. And so my career then became being a customer advocate and a brand fanatic with passion brands. I am attracted to passion brands just as every consumer is attracted to them. So if you look at my background, I've tried to focus on brands that I can see a true, genuine, personal connection to. That's led me to being a marketer in what I would refer to as kind of the lifestyle space, as well as the outdoor space and the action sports space. So I've spent time earlier in my career at brands like Lucky Brand Jeans and Von Dutch, if those of you who can remember that brand. Plenty of stories to be told. Watch the documentary or don't. And then moving into a good stint with Vans, taking that out into the outdoor space with REI, moving over to Burton, Snowboards, Backcountry.com, Dickies, and happily here at DSW, which is an incredibly fun brand I'm super thrilled to talk to you guys about.
Excellent. It's very interesting, always intriguing here, that to really be in a position where you are, you have to have a varied experiences and challenges and problems that you have dealt with. Some great, some not so great, but you are actually able to assimilate all of that and then get into a position like where you are at DSW, right? Let's get to the brand. Let's understand the brand. What is it? Who are the consumers, the audiences? Why do they love this brand?
Yeah, it's DSW is so fascinating. We have such a broad consumer base. So, first of all, for those of you who don't know, Designer Shoe Warehouse is what the D, the S, and the W stands for. We are a footwear retailer with over 500 stores nationwide. We also have business in Canada as well. And our consumer set is so broad because we uniquely offer a full family collection of goods. So we're servicing not only her, but we're also servicing him, and kids is a growing part of our business. What's unique about DSW is we don't actually have just one competitor. When you look around the footwear space, there are experts who are pros in the athletic space. There are experts who are pros in the fashion space, kids space. We actually have it all, and it's all underpinned with this notion of value. And value doesn't necessarily mean discount. It means, holy crap, I got this amazing thing and I only paid this much for it, right? So it's a sense of finding a good deal. That's an emotional connection. And the brand has been breakthrough in its not only footprint, and if you've walked into a DSW, you'll understand what I mean. You walk in and you're almost overwhelmed by the number of choices. It's a sea of shoes that you can truly see from any sight line. That is purposeful and intentional. And that, for the shoe enthusiast or the shoe lover, is an amazing, energizing feeling. If you're not our target or our consumer, it could also be very overwhelming. And I truly believe, as a marketer, you're not for everybody, right? So we are truly for the shoe lover consumer who is passionate about self-expression and trying to find different ways to express themselves, to pursue their occasion that they're looking for at a relatively good value. So the collections that you'll find in our business have the best national brands. We just heard from UGG. They're a big business for us. Birkenstock, Nike, New Balance, you name it, we have it. But we also have amazing fashion offerings and amazing luxury offerings. If you just go to our Union Square store here, you're going to see a great collection of Balenciaga footwear and handbags. So that unique blend is servicing a very broad consumer base.
Perfect. Now, clearly the CEO, the new CEO.
He's in the audience. Be careful.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. And the board brought you there with such great experience and so forth for a purpose. Let's look at, in that first 6 months or 7 months that you've been there. I'm sure you've done your own due diligence. You've understood the strengths of where the brand is. You've understood where the enhancements and improvements need to happen. Where are you headed? What is the initial thoughts and thinking about where you're taking DSW?
Great question. So first of all, walking in the door, actually even before walking in the door, one of the things that stood out to me in the process of being hired with DSW was the culture. It actually almost seemed too good to be true. So I was kind of side-eyeing it, like, is it really true? But in the door, it actually is true. And that culture is an empowered and high integrity culture, from the field associates all the way up to the CEO. And that is something that I can truly say with my experience is unique, and something that I certainly am not going to take advantage of. The other factor, as a marketer, we actually have a really healthy awareness level. A lot of that is related to having 500 plus stores around the country, right? That does a lot of lifting for us from an awareness. That's unique because a lot of times you're spending so much of your energy trying to win that awareness so that you can then drive that consideration and drive that purchase frequency, right? So that is a definite advantage. So those are the core strengths. Now, where the opportunity sits that I'm truly passionate about is putting the emotion back into the brand. Because if anybody has experienced DSW over a number of years, you do get that fire lit in your belly and that fun feeling of footwear and self-expression that has been part of the brand. It's something that we're here to reinvigorate, re-energize, and frankly, reposition for a 2025 brand forward. And that's going to affect everything from our VIP loyalty program to the store experience that we offer to what our app and the role of the app is doing for our business. So defining that unique brand and that emotional connection with the consumer and propelling it out through every single touch point we have is truly the job to be done.
Obviously, there's a lot to do. I would go down this lane of further deeper in 3 areas. Okay? You mentioned all of those, but you went really fast. The first one is the selection. It starts there. Obviously, because your selection and the coverage you talked about from the very high end to the value end, whatnot, right? One of the things you can't avoid with all the press that's been out there on DSW, there's the CEO statement and so forth about the fact that we really are committed to both the brands, the national brands, as well as maniacally focused on growing our private label brands. Okay. How does that play into building the brand narrative that you're trying to get up to?
Yeah, definitely. So our business is a combination of national brands and private brands. And what we have recently found is actually the consumers who purchase our private brands. So a brand called Kelly and Katie or Mix Number 6 or Crown Vintage as an example. Those customers actually are showing to have better retention rates than the majority of our customers. So the first question is why? Why do you think that is? Well, if you, again, take a step back, there's an abundance of choice out in the marketplace. So what DSW can uniquely offer is carrying the national brands that have high levels of awareness and a high consideration from our consumer base, and then complementing it with a private brand business that is going to offer the consumer the ability to buy into the latest and greatest trends at a great value. So you may be walking in the door to purchase your pair of Uggs, but you might find a great mesh ballet flat from Kelly and Katie or a trending red boot from Mix Number 6. And you can get all three of those for a lower price than you can get one of those at any of our competitive set. So that is a true blended benefit of our unique assortment.
So it's interesting. Do you run a lot of promotions? Like, is there a lot of excitement you generate in the marketplace by having promotions like at some regular intervals and things like that? Is that an integral part of the
Definitely.
value?
Yeah, I think like classic marketing, right? There's a room full of marketers here, the 4 Ps, right? Promotion and price, and those things are certainly part of our business. I will caveat it and say that within our VIP program, which is our loyalty program, that is the best way that our customers gain access to those promotions.
Understood. Okay. We'll come to that in a second, right? Okay. Once you've got the selection in place and you believe that this is what drives people's motivations to walk into the store and do the things that you want them to do, the next logical one, where you already went earlier, is the experience. I've heard you, because we've spoken before, you said, look, the retail store and that environment is just absolutely amazing. People come in, they get to do whatever, they go and peck and hunt and cherry pick and do whatever, right? They just love that, right? On their own, they're spending half an hour up to, whatever in the store. Are you doing the same online? And how do you do that? Because you are an omni-channel offering. Let me define what I mean by that. This thing about omni gets used a lot. There are two aspects to this omni thing. One is omni-channel transaction and consumption, which is touch points where people can actually go, experience, and buy. That's one aspect of omni. There's another aspect of omni, which is very media-oriented, outreach-oriented, connection, communication-oriented, all of that stuff. We're not talking about that for a second. It's all omni experience within the consumption side of it. Say more about that. How are you creating this consistency? That's the key now, right?
Yep. So 500 doors, an app, a website. Obviously, we are trying to position ourselves to be available to the consumer however they want to be reached. I loved the Amazon Fresh conversation, and he said it best, right? So we're not going to change customer behavior. Trying to do that is very expensive and not necessarily as fruitful, right? So our opportunity is to make sure that the store is the best physical experience for the consumers who choose that our website is the best digital experience, and that the app is the best loyalty experience that connects all of those things. And we know that roughly 30% of our customers are having some interaction with our website before they actually transact in the store. So that is just a good proof point of some of that showrooming that can happen ahead of a taking steps into the threshold of a brick and mortar experience. So we certainly find that digital, and I'll just continue to use the app as an example, can help the customer know that they're going to confidently get exactly what they need when they make the choice to either click the buy button or walk into a store. The goal of omni-channel strategies is to really make it as easy and effective for the consumer to get exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, so this leads to an interesting behavioral perspective here, which is, do the channels on their own have their own value proposition, or the real value proposition is the integration of the two, where some things happen in one and other things happen in the other place? One of the things you mentioned, I love this, that 30% of the interactions are actually happening in the app, right? Okay, that says a lot. There are many retailers who don't really get that kind of interaction online. So that's really, you've got something going which is very strong. And therefore it complements. Potentially they're going in there to look, is like, if the stuff that I want, is it really there? And why do I waste my time into the store if I don't know already that I can find it, right? So
it's also a category around footwear too. So a lot of people don't have confidence that their sizing is going to be the correct sizing, because every brand is so different. I love, one of our Union Square associates told me yesterday, she's like, every customer actually has 3 sizes. I'm like, you know what? She's absolutely right. I always do look at 3 different sizes. So you get the confidence of that purchase by selecting it in the store when you can actually try it on.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. I think that whole bi-directional nature of the way the channels are playing an orchestration role, which is where I think there's a lot of gold there, right? To figure out where those behaviors will evolve as you go. I think the other part that you're mentioning, which is now the thing that seals the deal for you, and I'd love to understand more about that. Let's start with your loyalty program. You said a lot, you're very proud of it. Why? What is it doing for you?
Yeah, so our loyalty program is called the VIP program. Within our VIP program, we have over 17 million customers that make up over 80% of our business. So that's the answer to the why. We care a lot about that program.
So here's the question. Have you compared that with other benchmarks elsewhere? Do others have this level of concentration of revenue within the loyalty base?
Yeah, we can certainly see some subsets of data that tell us that we have an advantage here. And that is something that we're very committed to. And I think where the opportunity for our program is what I said at the top of our chat, which is, how do we better understand what makes DSW super unique and take that emotion and connect it through every single touch point? That actually starts with our VIP program. Our app and our VIP program should be perceived as the pinnacle experience for DSW, because we know those are people who have raised their hands, and in a world where loyalty is waning, and you hear a lot about how the consumer today is less loyal with so much choice, the app also is the most used by our loyalist consumers, and the VIP program in itself has the opportunity to have much more of a DNA from DSW within it. So that is the opportunity in our nearer future, is to just enhance that emotional connection while not removing any of those benefits that our program leaders have frankly come accustomed to.
So let's go a little bit further on that. One can think of the loyalty program as a driver of promotions. Let's get people to spend a ton of money, tier up, and we show them more exclusive, interesting offers, things like that, and therefore they're sort of in our ecosystem, right? Is that one of the things that you're trying to achieve?
Yeah, so I definitely think that promotion and the pricing benefits, and again, we know value is a very clear relationship that they're having with our brand and what they expect from DSW, absolutely. But I'd also like to reward our consumers, frankly, even more, for example, for talking about DSW on their social platforms. That's just as much of a benefit. Spreading word of mouth at scale across that 17 million population would be a huge benefit to the DSW brand. Probably a good example of where the program could be even further enhanced beyond a pricing and promotional benefit.
Got it. No, that's very exciting. Of course, if you can manage that in a very smart way, right? That leads me to the last and the most interesting development, which is beyond the store equation and the consumers, which is you're launching retail media next month, right? Okay. So that brings in the whole new constituent into the play, which is your suppliers, the brands, and so forth, right? What are the motivations behind it? One can make some assumptions, but I don't want to. Let's start with you, and then we can sort of dig deeper into that. Why this thing? What is it going to do for the business?
Yeah, so a retail media network for us, we already have established relationships with our vendor community that allows us to represent their brands in our store. If you walk into our Union Square 34th Street store here in New York, you're going to see a very large presence with Skechers at the front of store as an example. So our commitment to elevating the brands within our portfolio has been there and long-standing. What the retail media network allows us to do is scale that even further. So it allows brands that even in today's landscape may not have the opportunity to work with what a classic co-op marketing program would look like. It allows them to buy into unique placements and also introduce their brand storytelling to our consumer. If we do this successfully, what ends up happening is we're rewarding our consumer community with more product romance, more brand storytelling, more wayfinding in the ways that they're looking for it. If we do this poorly, and if I fail at it with my partner in the business, then I'm ultimately diluting the DSW brand by allowing the vendor community to sort of overtake the DSW brand storytelling. That is not something I'm interested in doing. So the guardrails of the program are really important for us to tend to, which is why in launching something new, and you heard it from our Amazon Fresh friend as well, it's a lot of testing, learning, and scaling. So that's going to be the effort that we're embarking upon this year.
Yeah, this is like some of the things one can assume. You can correct me, frankly, if it's not true. I think that the incrementality argument of allowing a lot of suppliers who can't normally participate in store and all those other programs that you have done over the years, that you are truly bringing more to the plate, which is beautiful, right? But there's also the proof point more on the margin impact and profitability impact. If you look at what Walmart is doing, what Target is doing, and all the other guys have actually jumped into that. I mean, Home Depot built $700 million in incremental revenue at 80% margins. Like, what the hell is there to not like, you know? And so, is that also an important part of the equation here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the primary part of this equation is ensuring that the relationship that the vendor community and DSW has is strengthened. And their success is our success. So it truly is a shared success. So the financial aspects of anything incremental that we're investing in need to make sense and they need to pencil out. Absolutely. But it really is a customer-centric opportunity. If we have over 10,000 brands available, or SKUs available rather, on our site, because we have a drop ship relationship, ensuring that that vendor community has the opportunity to break through and have a curated message for the DSW consumer is a new offering for them. That's going to strengthen the relationship that they have with DSW. So we see it as a differentiator and a competitive advantage, again, for our consumer-centric community.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, because this is the part that I am generally worried about as retailers jump into this thing, right? And they're beginning to see that there is more media and advertising dollars to be generated from all of this thing. What impact it has on the loyal base, because the entire foundation is based on the loyalty data.
Yeah, I mean, it can go sideways. I've seen it personally. And it goes sideways when you're not transparent with your consumers. It goes sideways when you claim something's a bestseller because a vendor paid for it to be labeled as such, and it actually isn't, right? Our consumers are smart. They understand that. So I think it's the integrity of the brand and the program that needs to make sure it's front and center again, to ensure those guardrails are tended to. And then what we are offering is a value add to the consumer. We're not in the business of lying to our consumers.
Excellent. Yes, that was important. We have 3 minutes. Maybe 4.
No pressure.
Maybe 4. Yeah, you have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
The Collections at Forsyth is a store in Cumming, Georgia. And my wife likes me to pull up to the front door, her go in, and I'll sit there and listen to talk radio. Now, I have shopped in there too, but my question is, what's the average number of shoes that somebody walks out with when they go in? Because I want to see where we stand as a family.
How many times is she coming to a store? That'll help me understand what cohort she falls in.
She would be in your loyalty platform for sure. So I don't know. She's probably in there once a month or whatever. But
once a month, okay.
She's pretty often. She likes shoes.
I really enjoy your wife.
So
you should come in, by the way.
No,
we have
I
a
do.
really
I
great
have
men's
when
assortment.
I needed different type shoes, and like I need some for like a tuxedo. Could I get those?
Absolutely.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
I will go in. I will make it a promise. I will go in that store this week.
All right.
So my question back is, what's the average?
Think within one transaction. Think
Yeah.
2 items.
Okay.
Yeah.
She came out with 5 on her last.
And that's there are people who come out with 8, so she's not that bad.
No, and she went just to trade one size because wasn't the right size for my son.
That's common. Yeah.
2 bags, 5. Y'all can get a lot of shoes in a bag. But thank you.
I'm glad you got a bag.
Oh, and my only other business question is, so your loyalty platform today is pretty impressive, especially the 80%. So keeping those people happy, the retention piece, but also acquisition, I have to, is critically important. Like if you could just, and your CEO's in the room, if you could take that number today and increase it by 20, 30%, the revenue that's going to drive for your organization.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And absolutely true. Acquisition is a definite priority for us. So the opportunity for us is to really strike the right sequence. So being enrolled for about 8 months now, a keen focus on retention to ensure that that experience is delivering to what we aspire for it to deliver. So that, as I said to Seraj earlier, we're plugging holes in our bucket that customers can leak out of, right? And then continuing to fill in our file with new customers is a huge priority as well. So that is something that we're absolutely doing. And we can look at our media strategies as a primary factor, but I also look at our stores. So our stores and opening more doors in more markets is going to help us with our acquisition. And we know it also is going to help us with our retention because the customers who live closer to a store are consistently the most valuable customers.
Hey, Sarah.
Question.
Mary Beth Sheridan. As a former shoe dog in the industry, I love DSW and the assortment that you offer, so thanks. Question. A couple of the other leaders here talked about how to attract the male consumer into, it's just a women's store that was opened for contemporary for Bloomies, and the UGG business is predominantly female. I think you guys have a unique and distinct advantage in that you have men's, women's, and kids. So you've got that younger consumer coming up into the men's business or into the women's business. And you also have that family environment that the other companies are trying to create. Can you just comment how you leverage that ability?
Yeah, men's business for us is absolutely a priority and a growing one. And certainly because it's an opportunity. I think if we take a step back and look at the brand and the way that it cut through with the consumer, it's predominantly been perceived as a fashion brand for her. But what we see is that she's actually driving a lot of the purchases for the household in the footwear category. So making sure that we have, first and foremost, the best assortment that we can for him is priority number 1. And then ensuring that we are talking to him and featuring him in much more of our communication strategies is the second lever that we're going to be pulling. And this is not a short term, we're going to check that box in 2025. Men's and kids is a growing priority for us and will be a sustained priority for us. Yeah, starts with the assortment.
Excellent. Nice questions. I have more over there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Sarah. Dave Hollander from Ad Marketplace. Also a men's customer in the Union Square
Thank
shop.
you.
So usually one item, though, per trip. Sarah, you mentioned, there's an emotional reaction to getting good value for your customers. I imagine as a CMO, there's some emotional reaction to getting good value of your investments and trying to reach those customers as well. And so as you look at your investments across an omni-channel journey, how do you look at value? How do you decide where to really invest as a CMO across so many different touch points?
Yeah, it's a complicated world for any marketer out there, right? So there's multi-touch attribution, there's media mix modeling. We were just joking about this. There's incrementality. I could throw all the buzzwords out there, right? But really what I'm looking at is I do put a lot of emphasis on incrementality. I'll start there because I do want to understand what's an organic behavior that we can scale organically. And then what is a paid behavior that we can make more efficient? That's frankly the lens that I look at everything through. And that lens allows us to look at both the earned media outlets like organic social, PR, some of those things, as well as the paid tactics to say, what are the paid tactics doing? How can we make that paid tactic land more efficient so that we can reach more customers? And how do we do that in a way that also doesn't dilute the brand? So that mix of touch points is such a variety for any consumer. I look at it through those lenses because it helps me kind of navigate through to the hot spots.
One last question. You had a question, right?
Yeah, so you mentioned you spoke a lot about VIP and loyalty, which is awesome. We start there. My question is, how do you work with retail associates to extend that loyalty once a customer gets into that store? And just as a reference, I basically doom scroll with shoes and watches, so I love shoes. But yeah, once you get into the store, how do you use those retail associates, or how do you work with them to actually extend that loyalty?
Yeah, I would encourage anybody who's not stepped into a DSW store to do so, and for the sole reason of interacting with our associates. I've been in this game for longer than I probably should state up here. I've never seen a more passionate retail force than DSWs. They come to work every single day with the best intentions and a customer-centric point of view. And frankly, if I could multiply them, I would do that as the single best marketing tactic in the business. So they are arbiters of the brand. They show up with the clear passion points and they absorb every single brand DNA nugget that I give them and carry that forward with the customer. So ensuring that they understand that the DSW format is unique because it was kind of birthed from a self-service model for customers who didn't depend on the sales associate to go to the back of the store, find the size, and come out with it. It actually is a self-service model. So the relationship that the associate has with the customer is very different as a result. So making sure that they can talk up the loyalty program benefits and ensure that they're getting the best experience from the brand that they can possibly get is their primary opportunity, because that delivers the value to the customer. It's not about going into the back of the room to find the size. It's about getting that value punched up.
Yeah, I think if you look at Best Buy, just watch the trajectory of Best Buy over the past 15 years, 20 years. They've actually changed the quality of the associates because you know what? In general, you could buy any type of electronics online. Amazon went really crazy big on that. They differentiated themselves by having really high quality associates, and plus they introduced the Geek Squad, if you remember, and that added a whole new sort of layer on top of it,
Yeah.
which actually made it pretty interesting. Okay, we are now wrapping up in the final phase. So Sarah, if you don't mind, here's what I'm going to do. First of all, how many of you have actually gone through a major transformation in your business? How many of you gone there? Quite a few. I mean, literally half the audience has gone through that, right? You know the challenges, right? Transformation is a painful word once you look through it. It's just hard. The number of things you talked about, Sarah, is just immense. This is a lot of things you have to go work on in parallel and make it all happen. Any of you who've gone through that, last 60 seconds, any of you who've gone through that, do you have one pointer for Sarah? of what she should be thinking about. Just one thing that will make her life easy, given how many things she needs to worry about all at the same time.
Ignore the noise.
Ignore the noise.
I like it.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yes,
Say it again. Follow the customer.
exactly. I think that's a very good one in the sense that I've noticed many of our clients are much more preoccupied with what the competition is doing. My recommendation would be you focus the way you talked about it.
Thank you.
And that
The
will
customer.
take you pretty far in terms of like thinking about if you do the best for them, you won't have to worry about competition.
That's right.
It was
Thank
such a
you, Seraj.
pleasure talking with you over here.